So yeah, I think it's best to. I think that Paul Giamatti's character in The Holdovers was right about having some kind of routine, but I would argue for a more relaxed version. According to the story of the grasshopper, the whole ants fable, I don't remember the specific what it was specifically, but I just know that the ants worked hard throughout the summer to make sure they had enough food for the winter, and then the grasshopper was stuck without food for the winter because he just played around all summer. Clearly, Kristina Wright for Business Insider didn't understand the moral of that story with her article, I'm letting my kids sleep, look at screens, and do nothing all summer. Now, I used to be I used to use summer vacation to mostly play video games and such, at least during middle and high school. Looking back, I could have used that time to get my own camera and then do more of my own short films with whatever friends I could get. Though I can kind of understand with it being so hot outside, it might not be as worth the effort. That's actually why I kind of liked filming in September, October, November. But before we find out how exactly she's letting her kids basically just do whatever they want during the summer, be sure to give this video a like. Comment your summer vacation memories, whether you remember it being lazy or putting in more effort to do things like go out to beaches and such, whether you did summer day camps. I'd love to hear your takes in the comments below. Don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to Zillennial Nexus, cultural commentary from a man caught between generations. Getting into the article, and I believe this is a picture of one of her kids with the cat there. Growing up in South Florida, summer breaks were a blur of pool days, sleepovers, mall trips, and a lot of sleeping in. My days fell into an easy rhythm. I'd roll out of bed around noon, toss on a swimsuit, grab a Diet Pepsi and a granola bar, then flop into a lounge chair by the pool. Afternoons were spent reading and swimming laps, and in the evening I could be found on the phone or hanging out with friends until curfew. I got my first part-time job the year I turned 16, and my schedule shifted around work hours. But I still slept in whenever I could and spent a ridiculous amount of time on the phone when I wasn't working on it or practicing my driving. I remember those summers as relaxed, carefree, and fun. 3 months of doing whatever I wanted whenever I wanted. My parents rolled their eyes when I was still in bed at lunchtime, but it was the 1980s. Helicopter parenting wasn't a thing. As long as I did my chores, I was golden. And so were my summers. I don't think if I don't know if I've mentioned this in a previous video, but I was never allowed to sleep in as a kid. My dad would have us get up at about the same time every morning, typically about 7 or 7:30, which is why I'm not really much for sleeping in. Okay, sometimes I scroll on my phone longer than I should. But yeah, I'm not generally a fan of sleeping in, mostly because I prefer to fill my time with actual things to do, even if it's just playing video games. Yeah. But once I was out of bed, there was the occasional day where I'd have to go out and do something. But it's not like I had to do intensive labor around the clock or anything. No, I didn't have to, I didn't get to be that lazy, especially because summer reading was a thing. I'm guessing that's probably what the reading was that you mentioned, whereas in the 2000s, 2010s, there was always a summer reading program that you would have to do. Well, it wasn't really a program throughout the summer, it's just you had to document summer reading and then do something. They changed how they did it every year. Pro tip, I used audiobooks or a book I'd already read and knew everything from, so I could just fill in the information and move on because I disliked being forced to do that. And then junior year, summer between the summer between sophomore and junior year, did have to read a certain portion of the textbook for AP European history. It was a whole thing. So yeah, generally speaking though, summer vacations, I'll admit, were not as labor intensive or was a little more laid back, but there was still something I had to do. Even if even though I was the one who completely was like, I do not do summer camps or organized activities. Anyway, getting back to the article, my kids are having a 1980s summer. We're 4 weeks into summer break, and I'm happy to report my kids have settled into their own version of a 1980s summer. Some people call it kid rot, lounging around on screens, staying up till midnight, and generally doing a whole lot of nothing. But as an older mom, it feels just about perfect to me. My kids aren't attending camps or academic programs, and I have, almost, no guilt about letting them sleep in as late as they want. In fact, I want them to enjoy these long, lazy days with no agenda. Soon enough, they'll be headed back to school, to SATs and geometry class, to clubs, part-time jobs, and volunteer hours. After that, they'll be off to college, jobs, and a busy life that leaves no room for weeks and weeks of downtime. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I don't think this is a good idea. I think they should just be allowed to do things at their own pace at the summer. Like right now, this is the last video I'm recording while my pizza dough rises before I go make lunch. Because I'm trying not to do 16-hour days, even though, quite frankly, if you could guarantee results if I did that, I would have no problem doing that. But at a certain point, I have to accept that there's a law of diminishing returns. Getting back to the article, I know this time can't last forever. Knowing these lazy days of summer can't last is one reason they're so special. As we get closer to the start of school, I'll start nudging my sons to go to bed earlier and crack open the summer reading they've ignored since May. I'll begin tugging gently on the loose boundaries that this season has allowed. They'll push back, of course they will, and there will be late nights come September when they think they can stay up past midnight and still function at 7 a.m. My kids will learn, like I did, that summer's easy, breezy flow doesn't carry over into the structure of a jam-packed school year. They'll wistfully say, I miss summer, and I will silently agree as I send them off to school. Backpacks full of books, folders, goals, dreams, and the first hints of their future just coming into view. And there's one of her kids with Lego Star Wars gunship. I can't tell if that's Revenge of the Sith or Clone Wars, or if that's possibly early. No, it has to be before the. It has to be Revenge of the Sith or earlier, because if it were a Bad Batch set showing the early days of the Empire, one, I'm pretty sure those would be TK troopers in the set instead of clone troopers, and two, it would be it would be 100% gray. It wouldn't be bright red. Okay, enough about reading into the Lego Star Wars set. I just want to say, yeah, this is exactly why. This is probably why my dad never let us sleep in beyond maybe on New Year's Day, when he knew we had stayed up until midnight. But at a certain point, you can't just let them do whatever they want, because that functionally does not exist. Because as an adult, well, depending on how many responsibilities you bring into your life, you are going to have things that you have to do, which some could argue that's a good thing because it gives you purpose. But others, like myself, are like, no, this you shouldn't take on responsibility unless you absolutely have to. I'm grateful that I was not overscheduled. I think I found the right balance of still doing some things every now and then and getting to enjoy my video games. And my Saturday movie is what I use to provide some kind of structure of the week. But yeah, I think it's best to. I think that Paul Giamatti's character in The Holdovers was right about having some kind of routine, but I would argue for a more relaxed version of it. You know, you don't have to get up at the crack of dawn to get ready to do something, but you should get up at a reasonable hour for the sake of being able to maintain the consistency of your sleep cycle. That's actually another thing I'd like to point out is a flaw in this system. There should be some kind of structure. There should still be some kind of purpose. But aside from a few things like the summer reading that I think is fair game, I do think there should be a level of freedom. Maybe I'm just a little jealous because I'm an adult who doesn't exactly have that luxury, or because I've watched too much Tim Pool and now I believe I should be working on something without going too far into it or spending too much time on it and risking burnout. Like, let me put it to you this way. I am not like Walter White on that front. Walter White would spend hours and hours a day with YouTube and such. Me personally, I check my thing, I record like what I'm doing right now, but then when I realize that I can't give myself, that I can't put my full energy into it, I can take a step back. Back to the article. I'm trying to enjoy summer too. My kids' summers have always looked like this: relaxed days and mostly empty schedules, aside from the occasional beach or lake trip. I've spent years feeling vaguely guilty that I haven't packed their break with classes and camps and educational field trips. No, you're doing the right thing by giving them unstructured time, letting them decide what they want to do. Like me personally, I did not like having to go to that pond. But like I said, having DVR would have solved all that. Thankfully, with everything being on demand now and not bound to a particular time, I have no I would have no problem with that if I were born in 2007. No, if I were that age, I would be. If I'd been born 15 years later, I would have no problem going out to that pond because I'd know I could watch my thing at home. Though, who knows? Honestly, the world may never know. But yeah, at least she's not over scheduling them. I'll give her that. But then I remind myself that we live in a culture that glorifies being busy, where self worth is often tied to paychecks and accomplishments. Even being truly at rest takes effort. Rearranging personal and professional schedules and front loading or backloading work just to steal a few days of true downtime. I did something very similar earlier this month to make sure I could take the day before, of, and after the 4th of July off from recording and editing. I recorded 5 whole videos on Tuesday the 1st. Went to see F1 in the afternoon like I originally planned. Then came back in the afternoon. And then after dinner, I decided to just edit all 5 videos. And I spent the following morning titling all 5 of them and scheduling them. And then I had those days off. That's exactly what. So basically, I front loaded the first day and a half or so of July so that I could have off through the 5th and then come back on the 6th and start recording again. And yeah, not being at rest does require some effort and preparation. Sometimes I have. Yesterday, after I went for a brief walk to close my exercise ring, I still had to make the effort of closing my shades and setting up my audiobook so that it was playing on my home pods while I lay down with my eye mask over my eyes. So yeah, it takes effort to set things up. That's why I say life always requires some kind of work, like effort. But once you have it all done, you're good to go. Getting back to the article, I think back to my younger self, happily sleeping in, reading for hours, or lounging by the pool with no goal beyond a copper tone tan. And I wonder what changed. When did a 4 day weekend start to feel decadent and undeserved? When did I start calling it a vacation week if I only put in 20 hours of freelance work and checked off a couple of big chores? I'm trying to relearn how to relax while letting my kids do what still comes naturally to them. I'm less focused on preparing them for the real world than I am on giving them memories of a carefree summer spent resetting and refueling. This isn't rot to me. It's the kind of downtime that gives them space to think, dream, and even get bored. They need it. And I'm reminding myself, so do I. Yeah, they're not exactly going to get bored with unlimited screen time. Okay, maybe they'll get bored of what they're doing on the screens. Like, you can get bored of a video game. It happens. You can get bored of what you are watching unless you are doing a multi-screen experience, which I have said my feelings on that, so I'm not going to repeat myself. But yeah, if you unlimited screen time, that's going to lead to overstimulation. Honestly, yesterday I didn't even end up playing any of my current single player video game. I checked in on Animal Crossing, I wandered around in Mario Kart World, all for a total of 30 minutes before watching my movie. You know what? I'm just going to wrap it up here for the video. Moral of the story is it's good to put in some extended rest or to at least cut back on what you're doing. You know, you don't have to go through the extremes of either work 80 hours a week or work 0 hours a week and do literally nothing else in that time. It's okay to take a step back, but if you take too big of a step back, you're not going to have, you might not have something to step back into in terms of like a work situation or a business. Like if you're running a business, it requires your attention when it comes up. Like me personally, I do something every single day for this channel because I care about it. I do not complain about that. Sure, maybe the... Nope, I have no complaints. I am willing to do something every day, whether it's recording a video, 2 or 3, or 4 or 5, or editing as many videos as I can, or even if I'm doing neither of those, I am more than happy to consult with ChatGPT if I see a video isn't doing well to try to figure out a better title. So that's going to do it for the video. You let me know in the comments down below what you think a healthy balance is between doing literally nothing or literally everything. Don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe for daily videos of cultural commentary from a man caught between generations. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.